Welcome to Amazing Discoveries News. I'm Wendy Goubej. According to a CTV news story dated July 30, 2013, Pope Francis has made some shocking statements concerning the acceptance of homosexuals in the Roman Catholic Church. Members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community are welcoming his statement as a possible fundamental change in how the Roman Catholic Church views homosexual priests and members of the Church. During a news conference on Monday, July 29, aboard the papal flight back from Brazil, Pope Francis told reporters that he was in no position to condemn a priest's sexual orientation. Quote, "If someone is gay and he accepts the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge? We shouldn't marginalize people for this. They must be integrated into society," the Pope said. Marianne Duddy-Burke, the executive director of Dignity USA, an organization seeking change for the LGBT community within the Catholic Church, told CTV's Canada AM that the Pope's words were a welcome change. She says, "The way Pope Francis approached the issue of gays in the Church is so different from what we've heard from his predecessors that I think people just responded with great surprise and also with some excitement, wondering if this is opening the door to some changes." According to CTV News, while the Pope does not endorse homosexuality, his words took a more inclusive approach on the issue compared to traditional Catholic teaching that views homosexual acts as intrinsically disordered. In 2005, Pope Francis's predecessor, Benedict XVI, signed a document that said men who had deep-rooted homosexual tendencies should not be priests. Despite this stance, Duddy-Burke said there has always been a contingent of gay church leaders. For further details on this story, viewers can go to the Amazing Discoveries news feed on amazingdiscoveries.org. What is interesting is how the reporters repeated what Pope Francis said. According to the translator, the Pope said, "If someone is gay and he accepts the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" But according to the CTV News reporter, the Pope is quoted as saying, "If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge?" This is a significant difference because it would make any gay person who simply says he's searching for the Lord to be also included as a person of goodwill by the Pope's definition, even if he hasn't yet accepted the Lord. We will have to see how Pope Francis expands on the issue in the future. But what does the Pope mean by the phrase people of goodwill? This is not the first time the phrase people or person of goodwill has shown up in Catholic rhetoric. The phrase is part of Roman Catholic natural law, which is the central basis of Catholic morality. Thomas Aquinas, in his book Summa Theologica, was the first to set forward the principles of a natural law. In the Chronicle Review, a chronicle of higher education, Alan Wolfe, Jewish professor at Boston College, wrote an article entitled "The Intellectual Advantages of a Roman Catholic Education" in the issue dated May 31, 2002. He writes, "Among Catholic intellectuals, as well as some who are not Catholic, the most important Catholic inheritance is the natural law tradition, which is premised on the idea that there are certain truths in the world that remain true irrespective of whether the laws and conventions of any particular society adhere to them. At its worst, belief in natural law can lead to ideological rigidity and inflexible inhumanity. Catholics are likely to hold that the truth of God's existence must mean the truth of man's reason, art's beauty, and morality's universality. In other words, man's reason is unfallen. God's existence and man's reason, as well as art's beauty and morality's universality, are all on an equal level." Is this biblical? Roman Catholic natural law is derived from the premise that reason is unfallen, but Protestant law of nature embodies reason subdued by the Word. According to the out-of-print book Facts for the Times, published in 1893, Pope Nicholas is quoted to have said, "The Pope's will stands for reason. He can dispense above the law and of wrong make right by correcting and changing laws." If it is true that the Pope's will stands for reason, then we have the Pope's will, or in fact a man's reason, equated with God's existence, and governing natural law, which is in turn to govern a world in which only people of goodwill will be accepted. Richard M. Goubej, professor of moral theology at the St. Patrick's Seminary in California, wrote in his book, Reason Informed by Faith, Foundations of Catholic Morality, the following. Natural law is central to Roman Catholic theology. The advantage of using natural law is that the Church shows great respect for human goodness and trusts the human capacity to know and choose what is right. Also, by means of appealing to natural law, the Church can address its discussion and claims for the rightness or wrongness of particular actions to all persons of goodwill, not just to those who share its religious convictions. The magisterium has appealed to natural law as the basis for its teachings pertaining to a just society, sexual behavior, medical practice, human life, religious freedom, and the relationship between morality and civil law. In any case, the development of natural law tradition among Christian thinkers is due not so much to the scriptures as to the influence of Greek philosophy and Roman law. When we hear the words natural law or goodwill being used, we know Rome is discussing a central theological issue, and we need to pay attention when these terms come up. According to Richard Goubej, the Church shows great respect for human goodness and trusts the human capacity to know and choose what is right. The Bible doesn't support the idea of trusting in humanity. Rather, it tells us that goodness comes from God alone in Mark 10:18 and James 1:17. Goubej also states, the Church can address its discussion and claims for the rightness or wrongness of particular actions to all persons of goodwill, not just to those who share its religious convictions. Note that Goubej does not say that the Church can work with all persons, but only all persons of goodwill. Who decides who is of goodwill and who is not? What are the criteria? In the CTV news story of July 29, we see that Pope Francis has opened the definition of goodwill to include the homosexual community. The question, who are the people of goodwill, will be answered more clearly in the future actions of the papacy, in particular towards those who do not agree with its teachings and who do believe what Bible prophecy has to say about this power. Goubej also mentioned that the development of natural law tradition among Christian thinkers is due not so much to the scriptures as to the influence of Greek philosophy and Roman law. This statement suggests that natural law, which is central to Catholic theology and the basis of its doctrines and teachings, comes not from the scriptures, but from Greek philosophy, the leopard beast of Daniel 7, and pagan Roman law, the fourth beast and little horn of Daniel 7. According to Goubej and the Catholic Church's natural law, all of our lives, from the justice system to medicine, to our religious freedom, to our civil laws, and even to our right to exist, are to be based on the principles of natural law, an unbiblical doctrine. Pope Francis's recent statements opening the door to the LGBT community are worth noting. Could this be evidence of the papacy's change of face to a more conciliatory attitude? The aim of historical Rome, which has always been one of total domination, is still valid today. The Catholic Church would like to be the spokesman for and to all religions, not just Catholics. Its principles of natural law are to be the controlling principle over all religions and the world. The Pope would like to be the universal ruler and to unite all religious systems under one natural law directed by the papacy. We read in Great Controversy, page 564, "The Papal Church will never relinquish her claim to infallibility. All that she has done in her persecution of those who reject her dogmas, she holds to be right, and would she not repeat the same acts should the opportunity be presented? Let the restraints now imposed by secular governments be removed, and Rome be reinstated in her former power, and there would speedily be a revival of her tyranny and persecution." On page 565 of Great Controversy, we read, "The pacific tone of Rome in the United States does not imply a change of heart. She is tolerant where she is helpless." Says Bishop O'Connor, Religious liberty is merely endured until the opposite can be carried into effect without peril to the Catholic world. Stay tuned for further developments as they vindicate the spirit of prophecy and fulfill Bible prophecy. You're watching Amazing Discoveries News. Thank you for joining us.